Welcome to the Coast Podcast. I'm Emily, a virtual assistant agency owner who left Amazon in 2019 to build my dream.
And I'm Whitney, a freelance writer and communications consultant who never felt at home in a cube farm.
We wanted to learn from people who paved their own ways like we did. So we created this podcast to talk to others who are brave enough to pick a different path. Creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing their careers and their lives their way.
Join us as we make new friends, get inspired, and show you beautiful paths less traveled.
Not every road leads to the coast, but the ones that do come with a great view. I just asked AI to give me a list of 10 personable alternatives for the word real estate agent. Are you ready?
Ready.
Home matchmaker, property whisperer,
Oh my
whisper, house hunt hero,
god.
brick and mortar broker, dream home,
Oh my god.
dream home detective,
These are bad.
lifestyle
bad.
locator, space scout, habit handler, domicile diviner, residence.
Why are they all alliterative? Like, why do
I
they
don't
have
know.
to?
Residence ranger. I really like that.
Also, we're laughing and like these are cringeworthy, but somebody somewhere is like, put that on a business card.
Or more like they have a cute lifestyle blog with that name.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, residence ranger.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is, yeah. There we
Is
go.
that all 10?
That's all done.
That sums up life of a real estate agent right there. The journey that we compete against.
Well, on that note, hi everyone, and welcome back to the coast. My name's Emily Given, and I own a virtual assistant agency in Lynnwood, Washington. And it's been a while since we actually told you what a virtual assistant agency does. So we match you with really high caliber executive assistants that work virtually, and we can take things off of your plate like email management, calendar, travel, expense reporting, things like that. So basically, you have more time to enjoy your life both inside and outside of work and be a whole human.
Yeah. And Jennica was a potential client of Emily's.
That's how we met.
So that's
we
how
got
they met.
connected.
Yeah.
Yep, we got connected.
And I use Emily's services
And,
in many
and
ways.
I use your services too.
Yeah. But including, so for me, the way that I use my assistant, who I love, is mostly to make pretty graphics for me because I get way too excited in Canva and have zero skills there. And then I get stressed out and I spend a lot of time there. And so for me, having a brand kit, uploading it, she does so much more than that. But like, that's one of the main things that seems small and is actually huge as far as cost savings. Like when I look at her time report, it's 0.5 hours spent on this that would have me been playing around for 3 hours and then hating everything that I come up with. So that's one of the many ways that I try to sell Emily's services to people. And then as far as what I do, I edit every blog that comes through for Emily, and I call myself a communications consultant. And what that looks like in my business is a few things, mostly long form writing. So I specialize mostly in articles and blogs and websites for, I call them vibey small businesses in the Pacific Northwest. I mostly vibe with really cool doctors, small business owners who provide certain services, product-based businesses. I'm always really busy around this time of year because holiday is huge for my clients. And then I'm like, why am I exhausted on top of having 2 young kids? And then I get excited when I have a few hours to look at Emily's blogs because editing is one of my most favorite things that I do. And I also do influencer marketing, which actually kind of is something that's moving into the real estate world. And we're going to get into that with Jennica today.
We'll talk about that too.
Yeah, we've met in person and we have so many questions for her. And one of the things that we always talk about is that no one really likes realtors. And that's why we were looking at AI for different names. But not every realtor is annoying and masculine energy and not fully masculine energy. Like there's a place for masculine energy and everything. So we want to give you the platform to tell your story and why you're a different kind of realtor. Like my experience of you has been just a very upfront, honest, like I think most people find realtors disingenuous, and that's part of the biggest thing that they don't like. So take it away.
Introducing Jennica Lynn, real estate agent specializing in the Seattle-Tacoma market.
Thank you for the introduction. Yes, that the reason you mentioned looking at ChatGPT for titles of real estate agents, because I have this cringeworthy, which I need to work on, of how to introduce myself, because this life of real estate comes with a very comparable to a car salesman, and that's not the energy that I like to give, nor that I like to receive. So I try to be very cognizant of who I'm attracted to and making sure that I'm carrying that same perception when people are meeting me about the process. So I have been in real estate it'll be going on 14 years. I got in when I was 20. One of the things that I dislike about real estate is also the thing that got me into real estate is that we have a very low bar of entry. So it's a 90-hour, I think around 90-hour clock hour course. And when I was 20 years old, I was, floating through life. I graduated high school at 17, moved out of my parents' house at 17 before I graduated high school, was just kind of letting life show up for me. And somebody mentioned the idea of real estate. And I always make the joke that, when older people make the joke that you've heard before, and then now I'm the one doing it, where I'm like, okay, here I am repeating jokes that aren't that funny, but I think it's funny for messaging. Anyways, I say I didn't know any better. So I'm like, I got into real estate because I didn't know any better, which is true. But it was also the very let's just go with this idea. I didn't really have any stabilization. I didn't go to college. I was just showing up for jobs. I had long-term jobs, but just letting what showed up for me happen.
Did someone suggest it to you?
Someone suggested it to me, and I honestly can't even remember. It was such a fluke, let's do this. And because the bar is so low of a 90-hour online course, I was like, why not? It's not very much risk to get in. So the same thing that I'm going to complain about in a little bit is the reason that I was able to get into real estate. So got in and I loved it. I was really good at it. It's very much based around problem solving, which is my favorite part of it. There's so many different avenues of real estate that people don't realize. And a lot of times people think it's just the exchange of properties, but there's so many things behind the scenes that are based on problem solving, and each situation is different based on where somebody's at in their life and their journey with either buying or selling a home. So I got in, loved it. Like I said, I've been in for 14 years now. Primarily in my market, I work, and part of my own story is that I got married young and I got divorced. And when I got divorced, I had 3 properties. And so from these moments of my life, I am a big advocate of what real estate can do for you, because that safety net that I had behind me, the access that I had behind me when leaving that situation, and it wasn't a traumatic situation, we were just young and grew apart, but the confidence that I had, and now I am in a new relationship, the best partnership I've ever been in, but I also come to the table with more that I can say, I'm not in this situation because I have to be. Nothing I have in my life is because I have to be there. It's because I choose to be there. And I do attribute a big part of that to real estate, because I had that to back behind me with my security and where I'm living, my retirement, just funds behind me that I could leverage to then continue growing my life. Right now I live in the city in Seattle. I have a loft. I wanted to be right in the middle of this, and I wouldn't have that if I didn't purchase real estate when I was younger to then leverage to be able to be here today. So all that to say, the reason I really like to talk about real estate is because I think it gives you more choices in life, and sometimes it's not. We were talking earlier before the podcast started about people can afford this market, but they can't afford their expectations. And I will tell you, my first home wasn't what I would have expected for myself, but yet it put me to this place I am today. So,
that gives me goosebumps, because when I was young and I thought I couldn't afford anything in Seattle and I was so undereducated about real estate, I probably could have, shoulda bought something, but I just didn't know. And I had so many people talking me out of things like, oh, you're being silly. We would go on all these girls' trips to Arizona a couple times a year. And I was like, I could buy a condo here and just rent it out. And everybody's like, you're ridiculous. And again, I was right.
Now look at the short-term housing market. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just ahead of my time. And I think what's so great about you is that you are in that place of educating people, because if I had even just one person telling me, yes, you can, and here's how, and it's actually easy, because that's a lot of the thing that I do to talk myself out of things, even subconsciously, is it's hard. I don't know how. And then we have you served up on a platter of, look at me, I did it in my 20s and it's easy, and you have an example of somebody who can do it. So how did you how did you think you were a realtor? So you're like, I should buy properties, or like you're 20, when did you buy your first property? Like 22?
I consciously am working on going back to that point of life where I'm like, whatever, I'll make it happen. Because I feel like as we get older, I'm more aware of like limitations versus when I
Mhm.
was younger, it was, like my therapist would say, like survival, just being young and like trying to, find my place. But there is a beauty in that of just doing without knowing.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so
And
that's where
trusting.
I think now I'm trusting. And then I was so naive. Base of it is, that I just did it and knew it would work out. And so I'm trying really hard to like reroute that back to me where I'm like, just do and let life show up, and you know how to trust in yourself to make this happen. So honestly, it wasn't even a strategic, conscious decision. It was just, this is what you do, which is also why I got married young, which I don't recommend. But also, there's good and bad that comes with those decision making. But for my story, but yeah, I was in real estate. So I got in at 20. I think I bought my first house at 23. And then we've had a rental property that we bought and remodeled and flipped. And then I bought a house for me to move into on my own. And I think that a big part to acknowledge is that, just like you're saying, Whitney, that it's hard, it feels hard, it's the unknown, and they design it that way. It's designed to be that way. It's designed to be this like patriarchal cookie cutter, like white picket fence purchase. Like that is where our industry has created. Like I will say, one of the things I'm working on enjoying again, but I can't stand some of those pictures where it's like the key exchange moment, because it's like that's not telling the story of what everyone had to do to get there. Like every realtor is like, my favorite part is giving the keys, and I'm like, yes, that is great, but that is also selling this image that it's like that Instagram worthy picture. But when people are having to make sacrifices and hard decisions and trust in themselves, put them on this platform to be able to purchase. So you got to kind of just remove that blocker of that it will work out and it shows up for you. But that is, I think, the biggest thing that people have. There's this commitment when you buy a house that you don't feel in anything else. Also, people are way more willing to sacrifice on a rental property, but not willing to sacrifice on their home. And that, again, is designed. I mean, when you look at who makes the most money, a lot of it is based on real estate. And so moving past those blocks to know that, like, in the future, you will get to where you want to go. It just takes time to get there. And I think that's the biggest thing I see with like first time home buyers or people that are starting a family, is they have this idea of what should happen. And then when it doesn't, they don't move forward. And so that can put them behind.
I mean, it also is not a low bar to entry to buy a house. It is a very high.
No, it's very
I
high.
mean,
Yeah.
if
It's very
if
true.
you're in a household that's two incomes, and you're making like what, let's just say like $100,000, you still can't
100, yeah.
buy a house. Like it's
Yeah. Well,
well,
you can, but not in the area that you
right,
probably
right,
want
right.
to,
It's
or
just hard.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
harder than it.
It is 100% hard. And the opportunity, I mean, we could go into that whole conversation of like where, there's been barriers continuously put against people of color. There's continuous barriers put against women. I mean, I can't remember the statistic to say this confidently, but like women couldn't even get a credit card till, whatever, and that all takes time.
Couldn't even have their bank account until what, the 70s, Whitney? Like
Yeah.
70s.
70s,
Yeah.
couldn't even be on their own bank account.
Yeah. Saying like people of color, the barriers that you look at, like historically, if you Google like people of color and home ownership, you can see like where banking was put against them as far as like access to money. And so there is a whole barrier of entry that has systemically been around. And then what do we do to then normalize the conversations of it's scary and I
Yeah,
can do it, and how do
we
I
can
do
do
it?
hard things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
that's been
Emily
in my
knows
shower quote.
too. I focus a lot on dualities of these things can exist at the same time all the time. So it's even helpful for me to take myself off the hook, like hearing that, to know I was going down the right path and I didn't have the right support, and I probably could have done it. And also, everything works out the way that it's meant to. But still, I had the right idea and was talked out of it by mostly men, because they were like, that's crazy. Why would you buy a house in a state you don't live in as your first property or whatever? And I was like, because it's affordable and there's a lot of them and I could rent it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, predominantly, I mean, I just posted a statistic, and I see it in my own businesses. I have very few single men that purchase, but right now it's pretty cool because I have far more single women, and that's statistically proven that single women are buying more homes over single men. And I'll also tell you, not to knock on some men, but they also make it a hell of a lot easier because women are very like, what's the plan? Once I have the information, let's get it done. And you would think like that, like very direct communication would be like more driven to men or attracted by men, but women, that is my favorite thing about working with women, is that you give them the information and they'll make a decision. Stereotyping, men sometimes take a little bit long, a little bit more.
They can overthink it. I don't know about your husband,
Overthink it, yeah,
Emily, but
yeah.
mine, and a lot is super money driven for them, as far as they want to reach certain thresholds to do certain things. Whereas women, I would have bought a house a million years ago, not being financially stable like they have to be. And I don't envy the pressure that they put on themselves, and I don't know exactly where it comes from. But even my husband, he's like, I can't get engaged or move in with you until I make X amount of
Yeah.
money and I am able to spend X amount on this ring. And I was like, who gives a
Well,
fuck?
it's like there are like they say like you should spend 3 paychecks on a ring or whatever, and like I think they have like the caveman mentality, like men provide, you know, like I think that's like really ingrained into them.
But that's where, like, circling back to when I was saying how, like, from going from divorce to then dating, like, it also gave me this threshold that, like, when you, and you both know as like a homeowner, there's shit that happens that you don't want to deal with. There's stuff that like is expensive that you didn't realize how much it's going to cost. There's unplanned things, and there's a new level of adulting that like you have to then grasp. And so when you're relating with people in conversations, and not saying that everybody that doesn't own a home doesn't have that standard of like being able to engage with those conversations. However, it definitely gives a bar of entry of like, I have other responsibilities that like, while I envy at times having this like floater lifestyle of like not really committed to anything, that's not the chapter that I put, or the journey that I put myself on. And so I have to have somebody that equates to that same
Our hot
understanding.
water heater broke 1 month after we bought our house. And we're like,
Yeah, always.
fuck.
It's the real estate curse.
Can you speak
Yeah.
to that, Jennica? Because I believe it's the widow's curse. And our house did the same thing. It's the shifting of energy as
That makes a
well.
lot
So
of
we had
sense.
the furnace and our refrigerator broke
Furnace,
and
refrigerator, and
something
hot water
else.
for all of us too.
I really do think it's something along, when we think about like, if we go back into our finances and think of like how much we spent 5 years ago and then now what we're spending now, I'm like, I wish I could go back. And that was my like bar, my standard of how it's spending. And I honestly feel like when people get into home ownership, that's that test period of like, do you have the sustainability? I don't know, that's not the right word I'm looking for, but to like really see this through and testing you of like, okay, I've got this, like that checkpoint
Yeah.
of like,
Like if an emergency comes up, can you handle it? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And how do you handle it? And there are people, and I will forever say, like, I can sit here and talk about why I think homeownership is important, and at the same time, it's not for everybody, and
Yeah.
that it all depends on the lifestyle. And like right now in this market, I'm talking to a lot of people whether it's the right time to buy now, whether it's not, whether it's not always just this clear path that homeownership makes sense. And so I think in a lot of those moments, it's that like, all right, you do you really want this? Do you really got this? Because it's gonna let you know or not.
I have
Whether
a friend that they've lived in apartments forever and they have a family, and she was like, why would I buy a home? My light bulb goes
yeah,
out and I call someone and it gets
yeah,
changed. And I was like,
yeah,
I mean, that makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. She's like, I don't have a yard to
100.
mow. Like, and if you don't want that, then you don't want that. Like, it's fine.
And I think that's where it's being really clear what you want for
Yeah.
your life and what does that look like. And if it is something that you want, okay, we can get you on that journey. But also at the same time, like if you're clear, because the worst thing, and I've had clients that they buy a house and they fucking hate it. And I cool. Okay. So then let's unpack that and get that out of your way. But it also just depends on where and what you want your life to look like. And it's also okay to change that. So that's where, like, if you thought that's what you wanted and then you decide you get this house and you don't like it, like, that's also okay. Whether or not it's a good idea or a bad investment to sell, whatever the fuck it looks like, it doesn't really matter as long as it's what you want for your life.
What about the amount of hand holding? Because I know, especially if you're dealing with first time home buyers, and like, let's just be honest, you specialize in Tacoma, Seattle. A lot of us are over intellectualized here, very book smart, very overthinky, and fucking annoying, honestly. And we weren't that bad, I don't think, but the people who bought our first house, ugh, they wanted a sewer scope and a scope for every fucking thing. And we were like, and they were friends of friends, turns out, which we were pissed about because we could have just done a lawyer thing and saved a bunch of money. No hate. But if we'd known, and they were like, they went to our open house and then told our other friends. And anyway, but then they wanted scopes for everything. They wanted to have everything reviewed, and there's value to that, but there's also a lot of freaking out because it's a big purchase and needing hand holding. And it just reminds me of all the people in my birthing classes who were like, wait, I can't wear perfume because then if I wore perfume, then the baby can't find my boob because they need to smell my own pheromones. And how long before I give birth do I need to stop wearing perfume? And if I don't know when the baby's coming, if it's a week, then do I stop wearing perfume now? Because I don't know when the baby's going to come. It's just this whole, how do you deal with their mental spirals? Because you seem very like, we're just going to keep it real, but also
Suck it
I
up.
am
It's going to be
kind.
fine. Like,
Well, and okay, so first I'd say I hear you about all those, like them wanting to do their due diligence, but it sounds like you probably also should have been prepped a little bit better on what to expect for a buyer, like doing their due diligence. So like I try to get in front of that of like having the conversations with my clients of like, here's what this is going to look like. And this is just what the fuck it is. And on the same side, so like understanding why are they doing the scopes, or like, can I do this so that it's, because like right now in this market, like we inspect, as my sellers, I inspect the properties ahead of time so I can give the buyers and say, here's the information for you. At the
Cool.
same time, I tell my clients, my sellers, they may still want to do their own inspection. This is what this is going to look like. And so everything, like I make the analogy all the fucking time that buying a house is easier than buying a car if you know and understand the process. So like we've all had the experience, or most people have had the experience when you go to buy a car where you're out there, they're inside, they're behind the closed doors talking, coming back and forth. And like, that's not the way real estate should be. It should be very clear. I'm like, this is why this is happening. This is how it's happening. And this is what's happening to get to this outcome. And so when you understand the exact breakdown of why all these moving pieces need to happen, then it's much easier to digest, okay, they're doing these things because of this. Also, I will say, and like, not to beat up on your experience, but like having them do their due diligence is a pain in the ass when you're in the middle of the process. It saves you so much liability, because then if they ever came back to you, and people do all the time where they come back a few years later where they're upset, they found something, you can say, well, we gave you all this time to do these inspections. We gave you all this time to do your due diligence. This is not on us. And so while in the moment it feels frustrating, at the same time, it's one of those things that in the long run, in the future, could have saved you a lot of headache if they came back around. So I think it's just making it clear why we're doing all these things and why it's important, and giving just the expectations. And people do so well with a fucking clear understanding. Like that's the biggest thing, is like when they don't know, it's like the storytelling. It's like the ex-girlfriend or the girlfriend that you don't tell where you're at, and then there's a story that you're cheating and all this shit. Like eliminating the storytelling. I don't know why I had to be girlfriend and boyfriends do that too, but it's eliminating the what if. And so it's clear of like, this is how this is going to go. And not everything works out, but also at the same time, if you're empowered to know why, then I think a lot of that like uncertainty gets eliminated.
And also like keeping people informed about timelines. Like this generally takes blah, blah, blah time, or this generally you can expect to hear an answer within 3 days or something. So someone's like not indefinitely losing their shit.
I just want you out in the world demystifying all of this for everybody, because when I think about at the co-working space in Edmonds Workforce, we do lunch and learns every month. And it's a lot of people, just experts coming in and demystifying their area of expertise, like SEO, lawyer for small business, buying and selling companies. And now I need somebody explaining real estate to people so that they understand it in a way that isn't constantly allowing them to get in their neuroses. I think that was my issue, was that I don't care about your scope and all that shit.
But what does that mean for me?
Yeah, when it's just constant, all your neuroses are coming out of all these things of you freaking out about this thing, and now I have to deal. It's more of me seeing you in your spiral and deciding what I'm taking on.
I think that like one of the harsh reality, like I'm still accepting this, and sometimes I throw a fit about it, but the harsh reality of like as we get older is that we learn that like while we hire people and while we have professionals, like we have to advocate for ourselves so much, and like in every fucking avenue, like there is. And so that's where like when people have this expectation of what real estate is like, and then it's not like, it's not serving them, is that you probably didn't have the right person, and you have to go out and find the right person for your experience. And that sucks. Like, that sucks that you think you're hiring somebody and they're going to be able to do the job that you expected them to hire, or educate you the way that you should be to be empowered to make decisions, and then you find out that it's not, and then you have this, you know, overwhelming experience. That sucks. But at the same time, you have to decide who you, it's like that internal, like, what works for me, what kind of communication do I like, and then finding the person that's going to serve that.
How did you find your realtor, Whitney? Because it's like there's so many people that we meet at these networking events. Ours was Billy's best friend. That was a realtor. So that was like a hands down, and he was like amazing, and we got the first house we put an offer in on. So like it was the ideal scenario. But like how do you make that decision? You just inherently know someone, or like, you know, connect. Like if I didn't have a realtor, it would be you, because like we vibed right away. Like,
Yeah. The first time we walked in, we were being creepy in the windows of a house that was listed, and she was there. And I think well, I can't remember if she had just shown it, but I don't think she was the listing agent and also the seller, because I remember her having to negotiate a lot for us and doing a lot of unethical back and forth with the listing agent. I remember that very specifically, and we didn't like her, so we didn't use her again. But we were glad she got us the house, because it was in 2014 when things were crazy, and we were in a bidding war when I was on a plane and rebuying Wi-Fi every 5 minutes until I gave it up to God, the universe, my angels, and sat back, meditated, landed, and had all these in caps texts from my husband saying that we got the house. Then the second time was in 2018, and Roz at our first house had gone and played basketball down the street at 24 Hour, met our neighbor. They all played basketball together. The neighbor knew this guy who's very chill and great, I think. And he was so awesome, and we'd still use him. Although he didn't give us a present this year for the holidays, because my mom and George, they got a big Costco pie from their realtor on Thanksgiving. And we did not get a Costco pie.
Girl, you're even killing me on some of these. We're gonna have to talk about that too, because that standard. Then I'm like, it's like, okay, we're gonna circle this into one of the conversations about influencer.
Yeah.
Is like I get send out my clients quarterly, or like every either quarter, every 6 months, something they get. I also, but at the same time, what I'm really trying to route my clients to and create the expectation is that I want to be really great at my job, and fuck the gifts. Like, if I can tell you how to like leverage your money and use real estate as a tool for your future and your investments, like, I want to be really good at that. And that pie and the stories is exactly what our industry has painted as, like, look at this, like, oh, we're so nice. And like, I don't want a nice realtor. Like, I want somebody that's going to teach me and help me and show me how I can use this. And like, a pie is great, but like, I can make you more money than a pie. And if I'm worried about like sending you pies, I send my clients gifts. So I also on the same, I'm playing the fence on both sides of this. But our industry has done this great job of like, this is my value proposition, where like my value proposition is showing you how to use your money and real estate to build long-term wealth. And so it's like this really, so in the same thing where I was going to bridge to social media and influencers, every fucking real estate agent on social media is a top ranked, like all these things. But like, when I pull numbers, and I am a habitual pull numbers, because I'll be in a conversation with a real estate agent, they'll be popping off this, like saying some stuff. And I'm like, you sold only a few houses this year. Like, you don't have, and we all have a journey of like getting to a point of selling a lot of houses. But our industry, like, we have forms changing January 1st of this year. Both our buyer contract, our seller contract is changing. We already had changes earlier, was it this year or last year, I think. We're constantly having things change in our industry. And if you're only selling a few houses a year, how are you staying engaged with all the changes to expect in this market? I've negotiated with people when the market was starting, like, we quickly saw impacts with interest rates hit our market and then impact our sellers. And I'm having conversation with agents that have no idea what the fuck is going on. How are you then educating your clients? So like, while I want to stay in front of my clients, and it's all these things of like reminding them that I'm there and an important part of their life, my biggest thing that I'm trying to really work on for my business is, while I want to be there and I am a person and I want to be relatable, I am relatable. Like, I want to be able to feel comfortable sharing like who I am with the world. At the same time, my biggest focus is making sure that, like building your team of advocates of like, when I want to have a conversation around real estate, do I keep the property? Do I sell it? Do I rent it out? What does this look like? How do I use this money? Because that, I think, is a missing link when we were talking about like, can you do hard things and how to get involved with real estate is like, okay, now that you have it, you got to do something with it and know what that plan is. And so at the same time, making sure that that's the forefront of what the value of a real estate agent is. Because I firsthand can say, like, because of my properties, I now, I have 3 on my own. My partner has 2. We have 5 properties. We're talking now where we're like, if we don't buy another house, we don't have to worry about retirement. Like, we're set. And those were decisions I made young, and now can then feel like that burden off of me. But that also is a missed link of the value of a real estate agent of like, how do you leverage yourself to get to that point?
Totally. And I don't want the
Sorry,
pie.
tangent.
Well,
you can love the pie and love the value of a real estate agent more than the pie.
And to add on to that, so one of the things that I'm seeing, especially in this market, and I would love for you to demystify it, debunk it, whatever you want to do, is I'm seeing a lot of people in your world get bored and they're working hard to come up with
the content,
creative things. Yeah. Now, one of them in our town has created a Women in Business Connect thing where she's trying to connect with all the business owners around here. And that's fine. I actually think that's a good idea for. At first, I was kind of like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this because so many realtors trying to do things again that are a little bit. I try to say I have the right intention, but I don't because I'm trying to get your money in your business. And that's fine if she does too. I think she's actually doing a great job and being kind of honest about it and genuinely trying to connect as far as like all these little things that they do. But I'm also seeing, because a part of your job is to show off the lifestyle of what these people are buying. Now they're all, they have camera crews with them everywhere. And I saw that you do that, but I mean, I love you, so I love that you do it. And I find that it's genuine. Oh, you had it on your.
Yeah, I did a TV show thing where I was interviewing local, but so like real estate agents, like we were at there was a networking event, a breakfast for an economist. Motherfuckers had there's 4 real estate agents having their goddamn camera crews.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I pull your numbers, my guys, and I don't know how you're paying for these damn camera crews. Like, you're selling an image that this is what is about, this is the value of a real estate agent. But no, so what I did, I canceled it because I don't want to do that anymore. It was too fluffy for me, but it was for showcasing small businesses.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. Yeah. Like, again, it's all about the intention. Like, if you're coming and you, like, for me, in the town that I live in, I show off this town all the time because I genuinely love being here. And so if I were a realtor, I would totally index on that. And but when it's a lot of like, someone says it in some Facebook group or some networking thing that they're in, and then everybody does it. And then you all have camera crews following you around. And I hope that marketing investment makes sense for you. We had a couple business friends who were just featured on I don't know where they're putting the videos, some local realtor showing off Bothell. This is a shop that you can go in Bothell. And I love that, but I didn't trust the realtor,
Yeah. Well, and that's the biggest thing is like, I feel it's unfortunate for kind of like going back to that self-advocating, like you get this idea that somebody's doing really well, and then behind the scenes, like, it's so easy to paint this illusion, and it's using that like decipher of what information are they providing, does it match what I need as far as somebody advocating for me, and then what's the proof, like what is the proof that they're actually capable of doing the job that they're selling, because we all know that like social media has created everybody to be experts in things that they might not necessarily be experts in, and so it's just using that decipher to make sure that at the same time, while what they're sharing is great, what can that help you with for your goals?
What I'm hearing too is that because of all of the investment that you have in your life already, of course you need and want your job, but there's less scarcity for you where you're
1000%.
not in this, whatever the market is doing, you're not feeling the pressures of, I have to get creative in this new way, whether that's, and net positive or negative for these people, who knows, maybe they were meant to be local influencers and have camera crews and they found their next great thing. That's not for me to say. good for you to spotlight hot
Exactly.
small businesses, but you're coming at a place where you're like, this isn't driving my entire life, and that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think it takes time. I mean, that's the hard part. And you both know with like building a business of like, what does that look like? What you hear all these different ideas, you see all these different things. And also at the same time, what I struggle with is I'm like, I can do that. And then I take too much on and then I don't like it, or it's not what I thought, or it's not what I want to be doing. And I think that's a lot of what we see is like all these different ideas that people have the capacity to do themselves, but then at the same time it's too much. And so focusing on like what is the craft and what are you really good at. And I 100% can do a better job of educating, like using social media as a platform, but at the same time I'm not necessarily as worried about showcasing it on social media because I'm having those conversations with my clients, and my clients are the ones that are referring me and the business that I've had. And so I'd rather show up more for them versus this world showing that I can talk about what I'm doing when I'm actually having those real life conversations.
Who are your ideal clients right now? Like if you think of the people.
It's I need to clean this up how I'm going to say it, because my ideal client is I enjoy the process of educating, informing, and then making a game plan around. So it's not a price point. I could give a fuck less about the price point. It's realistic expectations and how can we engage in a conversation that you're understanding the process, because my job is easier when you understand the process and that you're interested in learning the process. So while I predominantly work with women or decision making women, so it's not single women, but most of the time the people that I work with, if they're in a relationship, if they're a family, the woman is the one that's driving the decisions. And so I enjoy that because once given the information, then they'll make the decision. And so that is my ideal client, is somebody that's wanting to receive the information to make an empowered decision. So
Have you had any really fun sales this year where you're like, oh, I just love this house that they got or
well,
sold?
Emily and I have made another, like, the world is so small. So I have a good friend who I have helped her buy the house. She did a complete remodel, and then she's a prime example where she was one that she for so long we had conversations around real estate, and we would look at many houses. She was like going through the process of deciding what does this look like for her. All she could envision was that she wanted a house, and she got a house, and she decided that's not where she was at in life anymore. So she was traveling a lot. She is a real social media influencer. So she would go, filming in different locations, all these things. And the house is just too much. It was a huge house. She spent a lot of money remodeling it. She spent a lot of money decorating it and getting it all furnished, and then decided like this is not actually where I'm at in my life. So we had lots of conversations around what she could do with the house, and ultimately she decided she wanted to sell it. So I put it on the market, and then come to find out, Emily knew the seller of the person she bought it from when she bought a few years ago. So it was a fun house because I watched that story of why she wanted to buy a house. She did it. She did it by herself as a single woman making these decisions. She then decided to sell it, and then how many connectors came from that
It's
house.
pretty funny. EJ spent like tons of play dates there when he was a baby.
Yeah, you
And
sent me
yeah, like,
photos of in the
yeah,
house.
yeah, it was so
Funny.
funny.
So that was a really cool one. Just going, like, I love the process of going through the different chapters of life. That's probably also my favorite thing, is like with age, because I got in so young. I've gone through a lot of stories with people of, they've bought their first house single, then they get in a relationship, then there's babies, there's divorce, there's changes of life, careers. Like that is really fun to watch, through because I mean, for 15 years, 14 years now, I've been a part of a lot of people's stories. So
That's so cool. What do you
yeah,
tell people like me? I'm going to make this about myself.
yeah, I love it.
Where this is our second house that we've owned. We think it's our, I don't want to say forever, but like kids through high school house for sure. And we're those COVID people who are looking around being like,
Mm-hmm.
we had always planned to renovate it. And then, we have a great mortgage rate, and now everything's so fucking expensive that for us
Mm-hmm.
to do what we want to do, it's probably $500,000. So we're like, it's a love it or list it type thing. We can't go anywhere. Or I don't want to say that, we could if we wanted to. We could probably downsize, but I'd love to make it our dream house for the time being. And we're kind of just like stuck in this limbo. Is that a realtor conversation where it's like, we have to figure out, we have the money, how we want to do it, what the value is. My husband, he's talking himself out of it a little bit of like, well, if we put X amount in, how much are we going to get out when we sell it? You just can't think like that if you're going to be here super long term. So,
Well, that's what I was gonna say is what is the limbo? What is the goal?
yeah. The goal
Because
is to renovate and not have to move and to figure out how to not pay 40% markup to a contractor, even though they carry the liability. So we have all these different decisions that we're having to put together. And right now we're kind of like, oh, we'll probably piece it together through experts that we like, but then you assume the liability and deal with all the headaches. But he's such a micromanager that we probably would anyway.
yeah, I did a remodel at this condo during COVID, and I cried more than I cried through my divorce. I didn't cry
Oh
through
my
my
God.
divorce, so one cry, and that was still more than the divorce. But it's hell doing a project and doing a remodel, and everything is more expensive, and everything's harder, and there's always. And then at the same time, that could be a whole other chapter of like you constantly have to be on that radar of like, is this a good deal? Am I getting fucked? Am I
Mhm.
overpaying? Should I keep shopping around? Like, how much do you micromanage? How much do you let them do their job? Like, that's a whole other world that I will never do it myself again. I have a great partner as well that would be the micromanager. And actually, I was talking to a newspaper and they were doing interviews about women in remodeling, and I think that is where one of the most beautiful things during a remodel is using the power of a man, because men can talk to men in those situations. I hate it, it's not fun to have to say this, but it's like using that male privilege that like they can have really much more aggressive direct
Yep,
conversations, where if we said that same thing softer, we're still more aggressive. And so like
totally.
I will never do that again, because it was like I'm constantly questioning myself. Am I like being too much? Am I, is this not the right thing that I should be pushing on? And then when did I not push enough of like the quality of work getting done? So yeah, let him have at it. And I would definitely piece it together versus having a general contractor. I had a general contractor and it didn't make my experience any easier. Now, not to say that there's probably not really great ones out there, but if you can piece it together, that's what I would do. But
Yeah.
and then going back to your statement of like, what do you do with the house? Like that's a conversation about your goals and like long term, what that looks like. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that we've done as an industry, and it was correct, but like how quickly you should retain value back into your home, and like houses are meant to be a long term investment. And Washington State especially got really spoiled with like buy a house in a few years, you have all this equity, and that's not the reality of real estate. And so realigning those expectations of like, if you do this remodel, like, yeah, you should intend to live there for a long time. And what does that look like? And then also like, I encourage people to do the remodel sooner than later, because then that's more time for you to enjoy it
Right.
versus
Yeah, I
a
had
life
somebody
transition.
give me advice recently where, we're still growing in our lives and our careers always. We have two young kids in private school. It's a lot of a financial load at all times, regardless of how much money we're making. And one of the owners of the co-working space, actually, he is a doctor, and he said that he has three daughters. I think the last one just graduated college, and he was like, we remodeled our house way too late. I wish that we had remodeled earlier because our girls, he has three girls, didn't get to enjoy it. And then they recently moved to a cabin that he bought in Stanwood. And so none of them are enjoying it anymore because by the time the girls left, it's too much house for them. So it's this constant dance of, you're a homeowner now, our garage just, the wire snapped on the thing. So now we have to
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
buy that. And we're like, and where are we going to find, I believe in the universe providing 500,000.
mm-hmm.
But if you think of it smaller, even with the whole journey, it all relates back to like, what's my first step here? So that's what we've been doing too. We've been making room in our house. We're throwing shit out all the time. We're educating ourselves. We have the plans in place. We're ready to go. It's just activating those things at the right time and working on being patient, which fucking sucks.
Well, and I think like so many people ask about like timing the market, timing real estate, and all these things, and like you don't know if you made the right decision until after.
Yeah.
So
Hindsight's
that's where
2020. Yeah.
like it's yeah. So once you're in it, then you'll know. But there could be a million ways to different weigh out what is the right route, what is the smart route, and then there's just what you decide to do, and then adjusting from it. Like okay, I'm gonna throw this in now, but like my therapist, because I am a very like want a clear plan. I'm all in or not in at all. And she is constantly reminding me like life is an experiment. And if you just use the word experiment, it kind of like lets you take a different kind of breath, that you're not having that pressure of like, is this the right decision? And everything can be adjusted. So it's one of those things that like, you're not going to know till you know after.
Which I also find to be a very male thing. They're always looking at what's the right decision. I think women are more open to seeing things in gray, even when we're not. We can be like, I'm seeing this black and white. Is there room for me to see this with a little bit more nuance? And men are so like this or that, and it takes them a lot longer time in their process. I mean, even my husband, with us, we have multiple contractor things. We could sell our house for almost twice what we bought it for at this point, and we don't want to be anywhere else, and we don't want a new mortgage rate. So it kind of handcuffs us a little bit, but at the same time, there's so much room to play in that as well. So he's finally, it's been 2 years of him making these plans in his head, and every day he'll have a new update for me of, I think we could start downstairs and do this, and this person could help us, and kind of building his game plan and his team, with me being like, when can I shop for furniture? Just let me know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. We took out a HELOC to do some of our remodels too, because there's so much equity in the house. Like you said, we could sell our house for double what we bought it for in 2017. So it's that's what we.
A lot of people recommend the HELOCs for that.
That's what I did for this remodel. Yeah.
And it's beautiful. How long did that take?
Invite us over.
In COVID. Yeah, whenever downtown, like I'm right in Salt Lake Union. It took, so this is like one of those things where I was like, I'm going to have my single girl in the city. I'm buying a loft. I'm going to remodel it for my lifestyle. I don't care what's going to happen in the future, blah, blah, blah. Now we're in this loft and I'm like, whoa, we are cozy up in here. So, I tell people all the time, like, make the decision for the life that you are in right now. But then at the same time, I had to work on, he is so great that like I had one of my little spirals where I was like, oh my goodness, like I should have bought something bigger, then we wouldn't have this adjustment. Now the market's more expensive. I mean, like we are having the same as real estate agents, the same conundrum of this market. And so his only question back was like, if we could move, where would we go? And I don't want to be anywhere else but here. And he's like, well, then it doesn't sound like we have this spiral that we need to be having. And I'm like, cool. Okay. But I bought in, what did I buy in 20? And then I did the remodel. It was one of the most humbling, and it's like that line of like, I had to constantly, say to myself, like, you have the privilege of doing this remodel, and also this is hard at the same time. And so I, like, when I moved in, because I was in a lease where I had to move in at a certain time, they could, they extended my lease as much as they could, but they had already rented it out, so I had to move. So I moved in when my remodel was not completed, and it was during COVID where everything was taking way longer. Like I didn't have a dishwasher for like a year and a half. When I moved in, I didn't have countertops. I didn't have countertops. I didn't have sinks. So I only had a shower for my functioning water. And that was like for like 2-3 weeks. I didn't have washer and dryer. So I was doing laundry services. Like everything was like this functioning. And it was like my shit show, my most unhealthiest, because I was eating out all the time because I couldn't eat at home. I finally, like, one day was like, fuck this, I'm going to make a salad. So I made a big salad, and then I had to wash the dishes in the shower, and I like fucking bawled my eyes out because I was like, there's no more low than this fucking moment. Like, and also at the same time, I like constantly struggle with like, I don't like oversharing on social media. I'm never going to pick up a camera and cry. And so I also am like hiding and burying all these things that I'm like, this is just what you signed up for. Like, just live in the moment. And then it's so hard because it's like, I don't want to be out here like complaining that my remodel of this beautiful place is like so challenging. But at the same time, like it was fucking hard. And that COVID timelines with like the construction of things, just like it was probably like a year before everything was like completely done. And then after it was all done, I met a partner where I was like, well, there goes my Sex and the City journey. So, I mean, I guess, different, same, but different, but it definitely like has been fun now experiencing a new chapter of this place with a partner and exploring the city that I didn't anticipate.
Okay, just really quick. I think it's so cute how you met your partner on an airplane at the end. Like, you just thought he was so cute and then sat by him. So cute.
Well, so I got divorced in 2018. I did my my dick detox where I was like, get the fuck away from me. I need to like center, because I met my ex-husband when I was 17. So went from like moved out of my parents' house, that journey of figuring life out, and then met him right away, then married by 23, divorced by 28. So we just grew apart after I there's so much therapy and all of this that I regurgitate, but it's like once I stabilized myself, I realized like where I was happy and where I wasn't happy, and he wasn't a life partner I was going to grow with. And so I started doing a lot of reflection, Googling the fuck out of like women's brains, which we don't fully develop till we're like 25 to 28. And that's when you have your value system. And so making decisions before that, like you either grow with somebody and then can realign those values, or you can grow apart. And that's exactly what happened. But like there's literally all this like science around the women's brain, and I was like, well, that's because I was like, what is happening? Like, why I have this like good life, and then I'm getting ready to fuck it all, like throw it all out. And so then 28, divorced, decided to move to the city because I wanted to get away from that area that I had grown up. I just wanted my, separate the two. With real estate, it's very personal. So like I'd go out to the bar, I'd see clients. I'm not trying to have clients in my business right then, like just things where I was like, let me just move away because I always lived close to that area. So then I did my hoe journey, my dick detox journey, my like live by myself journey, like all those things within these 5 years. And so then I got to the point where I like was dating, on the apps, and I went on a date with this like 45, 46-year-old man and something. And he was like, and I at the time was 31 or 32. And men can just live in this life where they like press a button. They're like, yeah, someday I want kids. Here's a button. And they don't have to think about like, what does that take to get there? Or what is that journey going to look like?
Yeah, they could just hop off the cane and get it done. Yeah.
1000%. So I'm on this date, and this motherfucker is like, he's wilding out. And he's, I'm starting to come off my wild out phase. I'm starting to like stabilize. I got the house all done, things like that, or most of it done. And he's like, yeah, I'm still in my hoe phase. I'm like, motherfucker, you are 40 something, whatever. And he's like, oh, and I told him, I was like, well, I'm coming out of mine. And I was like, I'm ready for like stabilization. And he's like, oh, I just missed the fun time with you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I am disgusted and I'm fucking out. Like, how are you going to sit here and be like, eventually I want to have kids, but like when? And I like, it just, the whole thing like blew my mind. And I was like, shut it all down. Shut it the fuck all down. All of them got to go. Clean up house, unfollow, block, blah, 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 blah. Like I went out because I sat there and I was like, I'm clearly still attracting this energy in some way that like you feel comfortable telling me this, and you don't see me in what the life I want to be living now. And so I, the next day was going on a trip for a bachelorette party, which just happened. Like the universe shit is like when you fucking shut shit down quickly and you are ready for it, responds very quickly as well. Where I think like I for so long thought I was ready for a relationship, and yet I know that like I didn't get to that fuck no phase of like gotta go. You got like I'd done like the temporary clean outs and like, but still I was still seeking attention. Like there's ways that I know that I was not true to being like, yeah, I'm really ready for this. And so shut it down, went on a plane. I refuse to fly with like multiple amounts of women, and there's a bachelorette party. And so she's one of my best friends. I lived with her in Tacoma, but I'm not going on a plane with 8 women like ever in my life. And so I flew down there first, and then they came a few days later. So I did like a little solo trip in Tulum. And then on the flight down, they of course were doing exactly what is like my biggest fear of like the woohoo.
Oh my God.
And so they were sitting next to my partner on the plane down. And then on the way back, the bride and I stayed an extra day. And like the way the life works, we are actually meant to come back on Tuesday, but we decided like we're ready to go home. Like we don't need to spend all this extra time. And we came back on Monday, and she sat next to him on the plane. And so then they realized like, oh, they are on the same flight. They're on the way back. And so he was asking her questions. And these are the bougie real estate days. So I was up in first class and she was in premium. So I like turned back and looked at her, and then went back and talked to him. And then we played a Monopoly deal on the plane, the whole plane. And then we had a date on, so that was Monday, we dated on Friday, and then we've been together since. So
cute. I love that.
Yeah.
I love a meet cute.
Yeah.
What do you guys, my last question for you before we get into rapid fires is, you two have this loft, you have 5 other properties that I assume that you're renting.
Yeah.
And you and I had talked about the thing that I'm going to look into for our other property once we kind of renovate it lightly, and who knows where we're going to land with that. But I love the travel nurse thing that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you recommend to yourself? Like if you're a client of yourself right now, you and your partner, and you're like, okay, let's say this is too small for us, and we have all this these assets and other things, like if you weren't staying right now, what would you say to
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I have a Google Doc. I have a plan and I have a very outlined plan. And also, I am very comfortable adjusting. So I don't get disappointed if the plan changes. For my brain, I like a plan so that I know what I need to be worried about right now. And he's really great about that, where like when asking the question of like, where would we go? So we want to stay here for another 2 to 3 years. And then I am speaking to myself in the same experience that our next house will be something small. We don't need much more than one more bedroom if, when we start the kid and family journey. And I want one more property, and then we will then get our last home. So we're going to use this as a rental. So we have 5, but we have 4 rentals. And then we'll do one more. And then because of like our spreadsheet of like what like the goal is that just based on rent, because if like right now, and that's the beauty of like young buying and these things, is that like if you think about it, 30 years is a long time away, but with our properties, by the time our retirement age is lining up, those 4, counting this 5 properties, should be paid off. And so that's just income coming in for our living, so our cost of living, and of course cost of living going up and all that. But my goal is that for the biggest part of our lifestyle will be paid through these properties when we retire. So one more, so we'll have 6 rentals and then our primary residence. So I in the conversations we've been having is like, what do we actually just need for the moment? And we just want something small, just a little bit more space. I'm also a very big believer in like minimal living. And I think that a lot of times people have this image that they need to have this house with all these things and like that the big house dreams. And a lot of times that's not actually what people need or want. It's just what they think they need to have. And so we're really aligned with like what we see life for. So yeah, and I also say like building wealth in real estate is pretty easy if you do it as far as like using your primary home and then bouncing to your next one. So keeping that range. Like when I'm talking to clients about buying a house in their first house, the smaller you go for your first one, then you just keep moving up, then you're not overpricing yourself, where then what do you do with this bigger house that you didn't need right away?
Okay, I have a personal question. If I'm keeping my home that I live in now, and I have aspirations to have a different primary home but keep this one, and a vacation home, which one do you buy first? Vacation home or a primary residence?
Primary residence. Well, okay, so like it depends where your
New
vacation home
Jersey.
is. Okay, so far enough away, yep, because it has to be within a certain distance away. I would do if it were me, I would do primary residence. I would get the equity from a HELOC. I'd put the HELOC from your primary residence on your rental property. I really believe in letting real estate pay for itself. And so if you're going to get a better deal on your equity from your primary that you can then leverage to buy your investment
Interesting.
property,
So you
your
could
rental,
use a HELOC. So,
to buy another home. Yeah.
okay. So like our HELOC now, once we just pay that off, we can use the HELOC to buy a different house.
It's a reoccurring, yeah, and that's where like we total geek out conversation that we could have about how to leverage
Amazing.
equity, because you can keep your property and continue to use it's a reoccurring
Yeah,
bank account,
yeah.
as long as like whether the market it fluctuates, whatever, you pay it off, like, but you're still holding that asset. So when you sell, you lose the leverage of that money that you can keep
Got it.
reusing.
Interesting. Love that. I will pay you for a consult.
Console. I love these conversations.
Yeah, seriously, you could make a whole business off of those consults.
Are you ready to rumble?
I'm ready. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know what this looks
Are you
like.
ready to be rapid? What are you proudest of in your business right now?
That What am I proud of in my business right now? That the market, it was traumatic when it first started going down. I will say, like, I definitely had a moment that I had to realign like what I'm in. And I had that moment that I sat with myself and I'm like, I'm really good at my job and it will continue showing up for me. And what do I like doing? So I think the proudest of my business right now is that I don't feel like we were talking about like the pinch of the market and stress, is that I enjoy the process of real estate and going back to enjoying that versus the panic of what's happening in the market.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And something that I was listening to about businesses or reminded of is that all of us who own businesses, we're constantly looking at our shit. It's the hardest thing that you can do as a person because you're faced with, like, you don't think that this thing is going to come out this way, or like you're going to have to look all your fears in the face through the
Mm-hmm.
market being crazy or
Courage. Yeah.
whatever. And then it's even harder because when you have a job, it's not necessarily impacted by these things. It may or may not be. But when you own your business and it's your livelihood and you are the conduit, then it becomes so much more attached to you all the time, which is why doing your personal healing, having your pile of healers at all times is
Well,
key.
and I think a big part is the noise, is cutting the fucking
Yes.
noise. Where like, and I think as a business owner, you have to like really draw this line of like, you still want to be engaged in like, what are other people doing? What are, you know, what is happening in our industry, but also at the same time, remembering like what you're good at. And like, if that noise is making you feel less than, because that's definitely what I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, fucking chill out, get back to what you know how to do and the conversations you know how to have. And so it's the constant realignment. So that's where, because right now I'm feeling really good about things and like we are calm, cool, and collect. And for a while it was a little panicky. So.
Yeah, and to relate, in my mind, I'm constantly, when I check in with my intuition every day, multiple times a day, it tells me, because I get shiny object syndrome, like, you are not going to make your millions from being an online coach. You're just not. Like, stop thinking, because they make it seem so easy. They're all making 6-figure months. And I'm like, are you though? And also, like, that feels draining just thinking about for me.
That part.
Yeah.
Well, having to show up like that all the time.
Yeah.
And sell in like
launching,
the ways
the card's open, the card's closing, like, oh God.
Well, and some people have it, and and like we were talking about the content and stuff, where I'm like, I want to enjoy what I'm doing, and I don't want this like, and whether that works for me, but also like, what do I want in my life? Like, if I had to do all those things to get that money, what am I going to do with it? Like, I have what I want. What do I need to sustain and be happy? And of course, like, there's always like the manifestation of more money and what it can do for you, but at the same time, like, at what cost and what is that worth for me? And aligning to that. So.
And like you said, constantly checking in with yourself of like, is this the move for me? And like I've been saying to myself a lot, like making sure your voice is the loudest. I consume a lot of coaches' content, and that's great. And I know that it's not the way that I'm making my millions. And I have to keep reminding myself of that, because I could be like, I'm an online coach now. And there definitely needs to be trial and error for all of us. But yeah, it's funny, even in real estate, because there's a lot of noise for you and advice. Tell us about a book you read or a podcast you listened to recently that changed the way you're thinking about your life or your business.
So right now, are you guys on the Libby app? Do you know about the Libby app?
No.
Change your fucking
I love
life.
it.
Best,
oh, Jennica, I bought
best 2020.
I bought 120 Audible books last year. I purchased them.
Yes. So you guys, these rapid questions, I talk too much. I have too much to say. So, so 20 at the end of last year, my partner, he's not on social media, which I love. That was on my manifest list. Is like, I want somebody unplugged because of like, the shit's funky out there. So I was really grateful for that, until when you're in a partnership and you don't have somebody that is distracted by like the checkout scrolls every now and then, which sounds ideal. However, every now and then you need a fucking moment to like check out. And so we were at his mom's house for Christmas, totally overwhelmed with like socialization, great socialization, but still like you need that like die down moment. And I'm on my phone doing my like brain scroll, and he has nothing to do. And I was like, dog, you got to learn how to read a book. Like, you got to have something to do when we're laying in bed that like you're not needing my attention. So this journey of books came up, and somebody had told us, because we were like looking at like different, just like, where's he going to read? And his aunt told us about Libby, and it's literally changed my life. It's changed our lives. He's read like 70 books this year, but it's a library app. And so you just go to your library, like online, then they connect you to Libby, and it's like Audible, but you can also have the read or the audio version. It's free. And then you just like plan how many books you want to read. So they buy a certain amount. So like say one book has 25 copies. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks for you to be able to get a copy, but I just go through, I load it up with like 15, 20 books. And then as they come, you get like 21 days to rent them. But what I love about that is it forces me to get it done in those 21 days, because everybody has gone through the journey of like buying a book, not finishing it, having it linger around, or deciding like, I started this book, I don't like it, I need to give it back because there's another one coming up that I find more important to read. Anyways, the Libby app is fucking a game changer, because it's free and we're paying for it within our taxes, all of that. But also I truly believe in like using resources so that they're available to everybody. So like the more that we use it, even though we have the option to buy books, is allowing people to see the value of it so that these services don't go away. All that to say, the Libby app, Libby, is a fucking
link it in the show notes. It's so good.
It's literally so good. Okay, so all that to say, right now I am reading The Child in You, which is I'm in the mid of it, so I don't want to like completely The Child in You, like about like your inner child and inner child work. It's a little heavy. Like there's times where I'm like, oh, that's why. Like I have to be very cautious of. I read Attached, and my therapist had to tell me like this is a perspective. This is not a lifestyle. So like while I have to work on like when I read books, not fully engulfing it, and so I can feel myself being very cautious with the child in you because I think there's a lot of like while inner child work is great, it's still like I always say like once you start doing the work you can't undo it, and so it just brings a lot of awareness. So that one is one. I'm also right now reading the 100-Year War on Palestine because I like my partner is he's half Arab, and so we've been having a lot of conversations of like this has been going on, but yet like the unawareness of what's been going on. So we're trying to do the work of like understanding the history behind everything that's happening. So those are ones that I'm reading right now that I'm really enjoying. Also, I just finished, I guess, ones that I can speak on is I did the lessons in chemistry, which
Did you like it?
Great. I did like it. Did you watch the show?
No.
Okay, I have my Apple. You can have my Apple login if you want it, because we did like the month trial just to like bust it out. Because I'm like, I'm not paying for Apple TV when we have every other subscription, but I really wanted to watch that, and it's very cute. It's one of those wholesome shows that just like feels good to watch. So I have to try and mix things up between like the work, good books, all of that, so that I don't just get on one path.
Yeah, I read that book. It was cute.
It's very cute. It's just a easy.
No, I love this. Is my favorite kind of like ramble on, please. What would your last meal be?
Red Robin's teriyaki chicken sandwich cut in half.
Really?
I will fuck up some goddamn Red Robins. I literally like when it like in my bougie era a couple of years ago with the market and just that single like life, everybody would be like, how the fuck I grew up in Federal Way, and my parents are they are what they are, but there's nothing like that recentered trash meals that you grew up with to like really like comfort food you. And Red Robin's like is forever.
I haven't had that. I always get the bonsai
Red
burger.
Robin was nice.
It was nice back in the day, but their honey mustard I could bathe in. Like it's just like the amount of honey mustard that I consume.
Bottomless fries.
Do you get steak fries? I always get sweet potato fries there. They're so good.
Steak
Emilie,
fries.
We have.
Who are you?
Oh my lord!
Do they still put this special seasoning on it?
I think that they leave it off and they put it on. They put it on the side. So.
Well, I'm upset with them because they got rid of the just in quesadilla, and with something named like that, why would you ever remove it from your menu? Because it's the perfect name for something. It's an appetizer quesadilla that you can order for yourself and eat, and all the little dips I'm drooling in my mouth like thinking about it. I just had to swallow because it's so good. But they did make their Clucks and Fries buffalo style.
Buzzin'. That's Billy's go-to.
So
I always get the bonsai burger on the lettuce wrap.
I'm a very like once I find it, and I don't go off course from my menu choices.
So are you the same way with like clothing? If you find something that you love and fits well, do you buy it in 4 colors?
COVID,
at this point, I do.
I know we all had chapters during COVID of like respectfully losing our minds or like finding things to like keep us
I'm making
engaged.
a sourdough
And one of
starter
mine,
right now.
one of them was I went all neutral in my closet, so I got rid of every fucking thing of color because I wanted things that were like fluid and that like the decision making where like everything just pretty much goes together. Down to my fucking underwear. My friend was like, you have no stop. Like you have no, because I was like, beige or black. It's either beige or black. Like everything has, because I was like, this just eliminates the like thought process of things. And so with clothes, that now that like I'm in a more open phase of life where I'm like, there's flexibility in things, I'm having this like conundrum of like buying stuff that like doesn't serve me and the like rules that I put around my closet. So I do buy a lot of the same things in those color schemes, but it also at the same time, like packing, travel, anything like that, it's so nice. It's so easy that everything just works together. So
like maybe I needed to.
That's where we're at. It's so, and also with shopping, it helps me stay on that path of like, will this fit in other ways of my closet?
I can't wear beige. I am beige. So like,
yeah,
I can wear beige.
I cannot.
Maybe it's a white girl thing.
Looks like I blended. So
I love a Pacific Northwest neutral. That's my aesthetic.
I want 100%. to. I wish I could. Just the same color as that.
Same with me though. I'm like in a uniform at this point, and even I was asking people if they cybered and they Black Friday'd, and I found it kind of boring because it's like all I'm doing is just adding to my same
The
uniform.
same. It's exactly, but it makes it so easy.
Yeah.
And then, like, we all, have social and the photos and all those things where, like, if you wear something that's really poppy, you can't wear it again. Like, you can, but you constantly think about that. Where I'm like, I'll rock the same neutral forever on things, and I don't put that
And then your
same.
pop is like your nails because you always have fun
Yep,
nails.
yep,
I love
yep,
that.
yep. My
And
pop is
animal
my
print
nails.
is a neutral.
Animal
If
print
you
is
could
neutral.
watch the video, you would see Jennica and I are both in animal print, and Emily asked if she should
I
change.
almost did change, TBH.
But I'm in a beige animal
Mine's
print,
yeah.
double neutral. What's the best business purchase you've made in the last 6 months under $100?
Okay, I not the answer you're looking for. With being a new adult, like a new chapter of adulting, I really limped through my finances, and instead of what I bought, it's what I've eliminated. Like, there's so many
Oh,
things that I was spending money on that I'm like, dog, if you use the
I love
resources
this
that you
question.
fucking have, like I was paying, like I think we all have our own email accounts. I was fucking so like we all have Gmail. I'm assuming you guys are through Gmail.
Yeah,
Is
my
that right
domain's through
assumption?
Yep.
Gmail. Yeah. Yeah.
Through Gmail. Okay. So I'm paying for fucking Zoom and I have Google Meet. And I'm like, why am I paying for something that I already pay for in the services for my email? And so it was like using the tools that I'm already paying for. Like, what are the things that are non-negotiables in my business that I have to have? And then am I using it to the
I think
full
that's so. We
magnitude?
should also. I'm gonna pay you for that in the consult too, because like, I
Yeah,
just got a
sure.
bill for Adobe that was like $22, and I was
Yep.
like, well, I sign like one document a month, but is that worth
Mm-hmm.
$22? Like, because I
It's
think
right
Google
there.
has a free e-sign,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yep. It's like, what do we already have? I use Loom, and last night I was going to get ready to pay for a subscription because it was like
I
you're at
love
max,
Loom.
and I
Shout out
I
stopped,
Loom.
love
and
Loom.
It's
I
free.
okay, so I went through and deleted the videos that I don't need anymore because I use them to help, for my business partner. We don't need those videos. Once she gets it, she's got it. We don't need to save these. So I went through and deleted them, and I was like, I was right there for committing to another 13 something dollars a month instead of stopping and saying like, how can I avoid taking on another expense? And will give so much appreciation to this market that if I did not have that moment of stopping and having the time to like really look at things, what stuff am I paying for
I
that I don't need?
love this. This is the first time someone has answered that question like that, and this is so. It's like you're speaking to me.
Yeah, I love it. What is one life experience everyone should have?
Solo trip. That I took a solo trip right after my divorce, and I have a solo bucket list of like I went to a Storm game by myself this year. I still need to do a concert and a movie, but I feel like while there is a threshold that like you don't need to do it for a long time. I did it too long because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go for 10 days, and I went to the Dominican. It was too long, but also at the same time, that moment I remember sitting at the restaurant and you get like the sweats and you're like feeling uncomfortable and like you want to be on your phone and like just having to be present, but also realizing like how many times have we all been to a restaurant and I don't even notice that somebody's sitting by themselves. And so like while we have that like, oh my goodness, I'm here by myself and people are questioning or judging and blah blah blah, all those things, when like nobody really gives a fuck what you're doing. And so I remember sitting there thinking like, if I died right now, nobody in this restaurant is going to realize I'm missing, and like that's okay. And like that may be my extremeness of like having to go to like the dark gray, dark area of my mind, but I'm like, it also helped me to get present that I can be here and nobody is worried about what I'm doing, and I just need to be focused on what do I need in this moment. So I think a solo trip is really good. It also like just checks you on being comfortable with yourself. So that would be one that I definitely say. And then the other one, I'm always gonna, I know that not everyone has the access to it, but I'm always gonna plug therapy because therapy has changed my life on the work that I've done. And therapy can come in different ways, whether it's through books, podcasts, conversations, whatever that looks like. But I think that unpacking and like being aware of doing the work has really
I
changed my
love
life.
therapy. Whitney and I are both
I
so big on
I
doing the work too.
yeah. Oh, yep.
Well, I quit my therapist,
Good for
actually.
you. That actually,
I
yeah.
felt like I needed to get more back into my body instead of intellectualizing everything that goes on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Am looking into different modalities for me. That doesn't mean that I'm not being therapized. I'm just being therapized in different ways because it didn't feel like it was supporting me in moving forward, because I felt
I
like
love
I was
that.
holding on to things and then just talking at her for an hour and getting some good support, but still I felt like momentum wise I could move forward faster through different things. And like that's why I always say pile of healers, because I think there are different times for different things and different people support you in different ways. But yeah, therapy exists in different forms for sure.
What was my favorite quote in the show from Lessons in Chemistry, where it was they talked about how the guy reads like the same book over and over, and he said that the book doesn't change but you do. And
Yeah.
so when you're showing up for things, like how you're getting information differently at different times. And so I think like while therapy is like, you automatically, a lot of people assume therapy means like with a person, but just like you're saying is like, what do I need in the moment and what else is out there as far as resources? Because like the Libby app, like the books that you're reading, like all these things, like it's how you're processing and doing the work versus
Totally.
just the person.
And to your point about solo stuff too, it's such a good exercise for you to be with yourself and be comfortable. And I actually took myself to visit a client. I in this life place of pursuing my own ideas and dreams, regardless of whether they feel crazy or extra or whatever. And so I took the wheeled airplane from Painfield to be able to talk about it to San Juan Island, because it's a new flight path that's very exciting. And the first thing I do when I get to San Juan Island usually is go to San Juan Brewing Company, which is awesome. Everyone should go there. And I was sitting there at the bar by myself enjoying my meal. And this lady behind me, she came in by herself too. And she brought a book. She brought a weight for that book so that like the pages stayed down as she was reading, and she had no shame. It was something that she clearly did often. And I was like, fuck yeah, I love this bitch. And that's like me in the future.
Yep, I love it. And I think that it's whatever it doesn't have to be attributed. It's just like having that center point of like, I am here right now and I don't have to be with other.
That is really hard for me, but I want to get there. Like
it's
I have
a process.
I saw a TikTok that was like something about how when you like sit down and someone comes into the room, you like immediately stand up because you feel like you're supposed to be doing something else. Is like totally a trauma response from your childhood. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I never feel comfortable sitting down and reading or sitting down in general.
Well, on TikTok, everything's a trauma
True.
response, and I believe
True.
them. And also, I can't consume all of that because then I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so traumatized.
I don't do reels. I don't do any of that stuff because I don't want and that's where I love what you said about therapy, Whitney, because there's a point where like it no longer does any good. Like the awareness, like, okay, now what do I do with it? And like, then I need to still function and move forward. And so, yeah, you have to be so careful with that noise on those things, because I almost feel like I could sit there and find an excuse for everything that I do or don't do. And then what do I do with it?
Right.
Quiet the noise. Yep. That's actually a message I've been getting a lot lately.
I just love how embodied you are. It's amazing. Last question. What's lighting you up lately?
Okay. I love puzzling. And I also, we all live
like
in the
doing
Pacific
puzzles.
Northwest.
It's called puzzling.
Puzzles.
Okay, I like it. I love it.
Yeah, doing puzzles. Yes. My biggest thing for like, we've all heard the feedback of like, oh, it's the dark time of the year. Oh, it's cold. It's raining. And nobody puzzles in the fucking summer. So like, if you have to find what things you like doing at the different times of year, nobody's having chili in the summer. I mean, maybe people are, but like learning the stages of like our weather here, like I then get excited. So like, this is puzzle season, and like we get very competitive about like our puzzle. Like we had to have like a very healthy conversation. It wasn't healthy at the beginning of like his speed of puzzling. Now he's fucking it up, like fucking out there puzzling it up. But like at first he's like one piece trying to match. I'm like, you got to let the puzzle speak to you. And
let
then
the
put
puzzle
them together.
speak
but like,
to you. I love that.
You find these little things that like create joy in the different seasons versus being like, oh, it's now dark and cold. Well, okay, well, at the same time, we all know that like most people chill out then by like 4 or 5 o'clock. In the summer, I'm working a lot later and having conversations because it's the natural, like there's light, people are engaged. And so like, what can you do during the season that you're in? Literally the season. And for right now, that is really, puzzling has become very fun for us. So
we just puzzled last night. And my husband was like, can we take a break? My brain hurts. I was like, oh, this makes your brain hurt? It like totally does the opposite to my brain. It's like doing the people puzzler. Yeah.
I like it, but I don't like a 1,000-piece puzzle on my dining table for a week. Like I don't.
Yeah,
our cleaners hate it too. That's why I was like, we need to get this fucking puzzle done before the cleaners come back.
It's exactly that. Is like we have a puzzle table and it has a shelf life of you have to get it done. But yeah, I think it's just finding different things. I think that's probably my most exciting thing right now.
No, I love it. I love how you own your nerdiness too.
I know. That's where, it's just the different levels that I'm like enjoying the era versus like fighting against it. So
Jenica, we love you. Like, so I'm so glad I met you.
thanks. This is so fun. I know.
I've been really looking forward to this one.
I love that we were able to connect and have the conversations. Because, yeah, we've seen Whitney, we had the event together, but we haven't had much conversation. So.
Yeah. No, this is great. Where can everyone find you? They want to have a consult? They want to DM you?
Yep, I'm on Instagram pretty much primarily only. Facebook's just there for my baby boomer clients. But it's Jennica, Jennica, Realtor, Realtor. That's where I'm at. I don't do any. Are you guys doing Threads?
Whitney Threads.
I do a little bit.
I can't. I wanted to like.
I was
the
on it for like
concept
24 hours and I was like, nah, I'm tired now.
Yeah, same. Yep. Same.
As a words person, I appreciate it.
That
but
makes sense.
It's already turned into Twitter, and I
Yep.
want to be like more raw and honest there, and not niche, because everybody has to be fucking niche and add value at all times. And what if you just wanted to spew your thoughts?
What do you? Okay, I know we're trying to wrap this up, but I just have a quick question. What do you guys think is the future of social media? Because I'm kind of fucking over it, but it's like a necessary evil. But like, how are you guys feeling about it?
I hate social media. That's the very first thing I delegated in my business. I'll do a couple of content shoots and I let someone else handle it all the time. I don't like it. So for me, the future of social media is going on a detox from it. But I don't think it's gonna go away anytime soon.
I don't know what the future is of it. I'm not good at guessing that stuff. I think it'll continue to be more pay to play and AI and scarily inauthentic, and a little bit of it's very external. And what I'm working on is internal validation. So what I share is, I think of it as an extension. I have a cool coach who I've bought a few things from and follow, an extension of her art. And when you're putting things out there that feel like you and art, and there's less pressure behind it, it's just like, this is my life, this is my art, then it becomes just an extension of you. And I work really hard to make it that way versus anything
more than that.
More, yeah. Or pushy or salesy. Like, it's just like, I'm telling you about these things that I'm doing and I'm offering and I'm living, and you either want to buy into this lifestyle and me, or you don't. And that's kind of where I leave it.
Love it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. We do have a friend though who will be able to tell you about the future at all times. But it's like, it's just, yeah, it's fucking with you at all times, because it's 10 different algorithms that are changing all the time. So you really can't try to predict it, because they make shit up. It's like the Google gremlins. They turn off the internet. They have the power to do that.
The worst thing we did, I don't know if you guys have got hit by this, but our industry, they said that everyone needs to get comfortable on camera and video. And so that has then forced such inauthentic content. Or there's people that are really great on camera, and then in person it's a completely different person that you're meeting. And so it's like this decipherness that
the content is really, being on camera is really hard for me too. Like, really hard.
Well, and that's part of my business. So not everyone should, like, even human design wise, just person wise, not everyone should be using that as like their mode of communication for so many reasons. And also, like, that is my whole business, is like, how do you show up as yourself everywhere, so that when people, and in ways that feel good to you, so that when people
I love that.
have that first call with you, they're like, oh my God, you're exactly
what I thought
you were.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
This has been amazing.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's plan to hang out in January or something, because I'm dead till January. So
same.
I love it, and I am excited to hear how the party goes.
Well, you'll be there with us in spirit, maybe.
I will be there in spirit, and maybe I'll pop up. I say that, and I'm like,
come on by. We extra catered for like 5 people, so come on in.
Roll up.
All right, bye. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.